Hello, happy Wednesday. I'm Beverly Hasford. This is Erin Nitschke. We are live on the NFPT Facebook page, National Federation of Professional Trainers. We are a certification company and continuing education support system for all of our personal trainers. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk all about calories. Erin and I have some thoughts about calorie counting. Erin has some science about calorie counting that we're going to share with you. So if you know anyone that you think might enjoy jumping on with us and joining us, go ahead and share the show out. Erin, why don't you tell us about your new background for a minute?
Oh, people, it's a hot mess. Yeah, I am actually teaching as interim faculty in exercise science for a community college in Wyoming. So I am obviously not in my normal setting. This is not my home office. This is my office on campus. And started teaching for them Monday. They lost a faculty member at the very last minute, and I have been an instructor for them before. So called me and said, can you come down and interview? So I did, and then they're like, would you please come join us and get us through this year? So that is what I am doing, hence the whitewashed walls. It's the typical brick and mortar athletic building, but I don't have anything on the walls yet. So maybe the next show I actually will have some decor, but I don't right now.
You've got the necessaries. You've got a bookcase and a corkboard, I see. So
yep, I have that. I've got a fridge. I've got a microwave. I've got some nice lamps. I've got a little Scentsy warmer. It smells good and it's organized. That's all I can say at this point.
Yeah, Erin's joining us from Wyoming as usual, just a different part. And I am in Montana. If you're on the show right now, say hi, tell us where you're from. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about calories today because, I feel like I've known for quite a while that counting calories is a science, I call it a pseudoscience of the past. I mean, it works. It has its merits. It helps people. There are certain people it works really well for. There's a whole boatload of people that it doesn't work for. And I've known for quite a while that it's more about what you eat than how much you eat. And I've implemented that for myself. I think that works really well for some people, but not for everybody either. So we're just going to talk about the ins and outs of calorie counting. And I did just want to mention, I was thinking about this last night. We talked about intermittent fasting and stuff like that recently. And we just had I don't know if it went up yet, but we have a blog about that going up. And I know one of the speakers I heard at IDEA said that if you are fasting 12 to 14 hours a night, which is ideal, then you don't need to worry so much about how much food you eat during the day because you really just don't have as much time to eat that food. And, ideally we fast for 12 hours overnight. So say you eat dinner at 7 or 8 p.m., then you don't eat breakfast till about 7 or 8 a.m., and that's kind of some of the new science coming out about how to work with the body. They are able to now see at a cellular level what happens when you disrupt that 12 hours of fasting. The cells just aren't able to repair or go through autophagy. And so that's a whole nother conversation. But I was just thinking about that, what she had said about that. She's like, it doesn't matter how much you eat during the 10 hours that you're eating because you really just can't stuff that much in. And I think as a society, we've gotten into this eating for 14 to 16 hours, and then we need to count the calories to counteract that. So those are kind of my opening thoughts. But Erin, you really have some science behind this, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Okay. So yeah, you're absolutely right. For one, it does have its merits. I think on some level it does help us create an awareness about what we're taking in, which is the first step to behavior change. But the whole calories in versus calories out adage is about 5 years outdated. It's really not a very accurate science, and it hasn't been for a long time because it overestimates movement and underestimates what it is that we actually consume in a day. And the thing with calories, we all know that calories are a unit of heat, right? They're quantifiable. But so a calorie is a calorie thermogenically in the body. Whether that calorie comes from a slice of pizza or it comes from a piece of fruit or something that's a little bit more, closer to the earth in terms of how it was produced and grown. But metabolically speaking, it acts very differently. And so the body is not really meant to take in artificial products. And there's like 70% of the US diet is based on processed foods. So that's a lot of fake food that people are taking in and shoving into their body and forcing their cells to somehow metabolize that and then utilize it for energy. And that's just not how the human body was made. We were meant to eat things that eat clean. And so when we're trying to work with our clients on behavior, on changing their nutritional habits, the biggest thing we need to teach them is about process and about behavior change and awareness, not calories in versus calories out. I think that's a very small part of the discussion because, again, it's about awareness. You need to be aware that 3 slices of pizza is going to basically yield X amount of calories. And so if you took a 20-minute walk, really a 20-minute walk, it's great for your heart, it's great for your muscles, it's great for your mind and your blood flow, but it does not yield a lot of caloric expenditure. So that doesn't mean that 20-minute walk then makes it possible for you to go and eat the gigantic pizza and milkshake. It's not how it works, okay? And I think when we get so focused on counting X amount of calories and looking at what we've burned, it creates this certain obsession. And obsession doesn't lead to success long-term because it isn't sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think one of the best things we can teach our clients is the 80-20 rule. And that doesn't mean 80% of the time you have to eat food you don't enjoy. What it means is it's a sustainable practice. So 80% of the time you are eating whole foods, veggies, you're eating a balanced diet, and then you can kind of budget, I guess, so to speak, for the junk food. I don't really like that term, but it's a term that our clients are very familiar with. More or less, it's just not a nutrient-dense category of food. It's energy-dense. Mm-hmm. So when I say that, it means it's high in calories. So things like your processed foods, it's going to be very high in sugar. It's going to be very high in sodium. It's likely going to be high in fat. But what are the nutrients we're getting from that? So you can budget that. And budgeting junk food also means budgeting alcohol as well. Alcohol is metabolized very differently in the body, and it also has 7 calories per gram. So it's just a couple calories under what fat is per gram. So that's something to help teach your clients about. But again, a calorie is a calorie thermogenically, but not metabolically. And so that's where I think we can get into real trouble with our clients, or that our clients can get into real trouble, is when they start obsessing about writing down every single morsel that they put in their mouth. And that it's laborious. It is a pain in the rear. There are some great apps out there that really do help create that awareness piece. So I think using technology and introducing our clients to that is very important. But making it more about quality of food versus the overall quantity. Because again, calories are different in metabolically speaking. And so when we look at quality, it's okay if you're 20 calories over on your budget for calories, as opposed to if you're taking in 1,200 calories of crap food, that's high in sugar, that's white flour, that's low in fiber, that's high in sodium. So those are the types of things that we need to start having conversations with our clients about. Is it's more about the quality, and that's what I mean when we're talking about calories in a metabolic sense. It's about quality of the calorie that you're taking in. And so it's better to be 80% good on what you're taking in for an entire year than it is to be 100% good for 3 months' time, because that isn't sustainable. And clients, humans, need sustainable practices if we're ever going to carry it over. And I think the other downside with the science behind counting calories is that with the obsession piece, it comes with this sense of guilt. So a client is trying to stay within this modicum of a certain caloric window and exercise X amount, and then write down every single thing, every stick of gum, every M&M, every drink of water, all of that. And then they go out with some friends and they fall off the wagon. They guilt themselves. If you can follow the 80-20 rule, it backs off on that guilt factor a little bit.
Mm.
Because to be healthy, we don't need to obsess in an unhealthy way. We can be healthy and still enjoy our food. We can still enjoy living, and that is okay. Again, it's about sustainability and it's about behavior change in a process versus trying to quantify every single piece of food and every beverage we take in. It's just not easy for clients to sustain.
Yeah, it seems like it's just really important to have a solid foundation. That most of the time you have your plan in place and you eat a certain way. And then when things happen, like you go out with your friends or you move across the state to teach a different school or whatever you're doing, then you can give yourself that leeway for a few days and not bring on that extra stress of I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing and I got over my calorie count. But I think having that strong foundation is really important. And it sounds like what you're saying is calorie counting might be a good tool to use initially with people to build awareness, keep a food journal, and to just learn about like what the density is of different foods. Like you were saying, you know, a lot of people may not realize that, you know, I feel like when you're sipping a beverage, it never seems as calorically dense as other food, but it's like, oh, it actually is. Mm-hmm. And to build that awareness, it's kind of like the first tool. It might be what someone can wrap their head around at first, just counting numbers, but to then fairly quickly usher them on to the next level, which it sounds a lot like my girlfriend, Heather Fleming, owns a company called Conscious Nutrition, and she's a registered dietitian, but she also has a lot of credentials in holistic nutrition. And she teaches people how to listen to their body and listen to what the food is doing when it goes in and pay attention to the signals. And also she has a great book she sells. It's a couple bucks online. It's all about cravings. And it teaches you if you're craving salty, this is, you know, what might be going on. If you're craving sweet, this is what might be going on. If you're craving creamy, you know, like you want that creamy, you know, mocha or whatever, you want ice cream, there might actually be a deeper craving below that. So I love that approach too. And I think that more and more, you know, Erin, you've been writing a lot of blogs about mindfulness in the fitness industry. With nutrition, we also have to bring in that mindfulness and eat mindfully. And it's a lot more work to eat that way. It's a lot easier to count calories and mark it in a book. But as you're saying, maybe someone can only sustain that for a few months. Whereas if they cultivate this knowledge and this awareness of how the food affects their body, what it feels like to eat certain things. Like I know at this time of year, my biggest one is candy corn. I just love that stuff. It's like the only time I will eat refined sugar really is just one time a year. And it's like, and I know that like, I'm basically not even putting anything in, like I'm putting this thing in my body that's like fake. It's like, it'd be like eating like a candy wrapper. I mean, it's like, I mean, as you said, it will give you some energy. The sugar will give you some energy, but I know like when I walk into a gas station, sometimes I laugh, I look around and I'm just like, what is this stuff? Like who made this up? Like
it's garbage. If we were to actually look at the marketing efforts that go into processed foods, like it is a $1 billion industry. And if you're, you know, and there's such thing as product placement. Like supermarkets have a strategy to get you to buy the garbage. And I gotta tell you,
cheap to manufacture, and they make a lot of money off of it. You know, there's not a big profit margin on foods that the farmer had to slave over and, you know, plant and watch and cultivate. And until we had our own garden this year, I really didn't understand how much work it is to grow that food. And so the profit margin can't be as high as like mixing some sugar together. I mean, I can make caramels in 10 minutes in my house. That's way faster than growing broccoli. We have a question here. Can you explain negative calories? I'm just wondering if my understanding is correct. Do you know what negative calories are?
Are you talking about being in a positive caloric balance versus a negative caloric balance? Or are you talking about foods that have a higher thermogenic effect, so it takes longer to break down? So your foods like a protein, for instance, proteins are hard to break down. There's a process that they have to go
through. That's probably
there's a process, the thermogenic effect of food, or TEF, and it's a component of metabolism. So there are some foods that take the body longer to break down because they're just simply more complex. So you think about a protein and they're linked amino acids. It takes time to break those building blocks down so the body can effectively use them as energy and fuel and help repair tissue and help, shuttle hormones and things like that. So that might be what you're talking about with negative calories, is there are foods that still have that really high thermogenic effect. So it costs the body energy to take it into its usable components. So you're not necessarily storing all of those calories because your body has had to use some to make it efficient. Does that answer that question?
We'll see. Yeah, that sounds to me like what I've understood. I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, when I think about all this calorie stuff and the counting and the negative, and it just sounds like a game to me, a game that you'll never win. Like if you're trying to cheat the system. One of my favorite personal training mentors out in California, Jeremy Manning, would always say, if you're going to eat birthday cake, eat it in the closet because then it won't count.
Oh, if only.
That was always the joke because a lot of times the client would come in and be like, so can I have some cake for my birthday? He's like, just eat it in the closet. It won't count. It's like, that's what I think about when I think about like, hey, if you eat these foods, they'll actually, cause a negative, whatever thermogenic. And it's like just kind of funny, all of it. It's just funny what a game we've made out of eating, like this thing that's like essential and simple, and it's become so complicated. And I just loved Pamela Peake's lecture at IDEA once again because she just made it real simple. Like eat during a window of 8 to 12 hours during the day, and then don't eat for the next 12 hours. And it does make it a lot more simple. It's like, I got to just get my food in, and I got to get food in that's going to give me fuel. Like I know, sometimes if I eat something that's not as fulfilling, then I don't have the same energy. I don't have the same focus. And then I have to eat something else to make up for it. And it's like, I don't want to spend my whole day eating. I just want to eat and be done with it. And I remember when it was popular to eat every other hour. And then I did this program with Sarah Grout, another holistic nutritionist. I just love holistic. You call it holistic or whatever you want to call it. But basically it's just the idea that you pay attention to what you eat. And she taught me how to eat in a way that I only need to eat three times a day, like back to that again. And it's like, this is great because it becomes a pain in the butt to have like a granola bar in your purse constantly, or like, it's just like, just sit down, eat your meal and be done with it, move on with your day and enjoy your meals. I know our friends over there, Billy and Angie at NFPT headquarters, they enjoy themselves going out to sushi. I always see on Facebook photos, and like, I think that's great, like to enjoy those meals that you have and not feel the guilt that you're talking about, Erin.
Yeah, I think another really important point, just to follow up with the quality discussion, is teaching clients about looking at ingredients. Like, yeah, the nutrition panel is important, but the pieces of information there are just really a snapshot when it comes to the quality of that food. So in my opinion, it's better metabolically and holistically to eat a meal that's clean and whole, that has maybe 50 more calories in it than a processed packaged food that has reduced caloric content, because the whole meal is not going to have as much sodium. It's not going to have additional sugars unless, of course, you make the conscious choice to do that. It's going to be better for the body and the mind versus, oh, I'm trying to stay in this caloric window, so this package of 100 calorie, cookies is going to be better than 100 calories worth of fruit and nuts. Not true.
It just sounds ridiculous. Like, if it sounds ridiculous, then it is.
And that's the problem with only focusing on quantifying versus qualifying what we're taking in. Is when we quantify, we look at 150 calories and we know 150 calories is more than 100 calories, but that's not where it stops. So, and that's not where we need to stop with our education with our clients, is we need to say, okay, look at the ingredient list. If it's a half a paragraph, put that sucker back on the shelf. You don't need maltodextrin, you don't need carrageenan, you don't need that garbage, because why? What's it for? It's to preserve shelf life. It's an additive. There are additives in cereals that keep it crunchy. I mean, really, really, we need to get back to the basics. Our caveman ancestors didn't have this. They also didn't eat every day, but nonetheless, they lived off the land. And I'm not saying everybody has to go out and farm and, do that kind of stuff, but just making conscious choices about the foods that we're taking in and asking ourselves, is it quality? And a really great example is when you're shopping and you go to the produce section, a zucchini does not have a nutrition facts panel. Not need it. But you go into the chip aisle and you have zucchini chips. That doesn't make it better. You look at the ingredients and the first thing is going to be some kind of oil, probably hydrogenated. There's going to be the second ingredient probably will be salt. And then there's going to be a bunch of words that nobody knows how to pronounce. I mean, some of those are legitimate vitamins that they just list as their chemical names. but really, zucchinis and apples and those things that you buy in the produce section, they don't need nutrition labels, and there's a reason for it.
They don't need a marketing campaign.
No, an apple is an apple. And maybe calorically, it would vary between, say, 80 calories and 110, depending on the size, depending on the type. But really taking a look at that as the quality over the quantity. I would much rather eat more calories in one meal that I know where it's coming from than to, peel back a package label and eat only, 90% of those same calories, because I know it's going to fuel me for later in the day. So I think those are just important messages that as personal trainers, fitness professionals, we need to teach our clients about. And no, you can't prescribe a diet. You can't do anything like that as a personal trainer without some sort of additional license or credential. But you can teach them. And that's what we should be doing. We should be having conversations with our clients every time about nutrition.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Well, we've got comments. I love that you're talking about quality versus quantity. You took the words right out of my mouth. Too many people counting calories, not enough counting chemicals. So got some good conversation going. I did pop up your blog about nutrition labels just because you mentioned it. I know you're saying like ideally you don't eat foods that have nutrition labels, but that was a pretty popular blog this year. So if anyone hasn't seen the updates, I just stuck that in there. We're closing out on our time today. We want to let you guys go so you can get on with your morning. If you guys have more questions about nutrition or things you want to talk about, pop it in the comments. Maybe we'll do our next show, some roundup questions about nutrition. Our next show is going to be on the 26th of September. So we won't be here next week, but we will be here on the 26th. And we will see you then. So mark your calendar for that. And like I said, put some questions. If you found this helpful, please share the show. And I also want to just throw the 3-week challenge up since that's going on right now. I want to give a shout out to Gail, who called some old clients yesterday with the day 2 challenge, and she scheduled one for Friday. So
nice job, Gail. Way to go.
Works if you work it. So if you're looking for more clients that you can talk to about calories, check out the 3-week challenge. We've got that going on right now at NFPT, and share the love, send it out there. So Thanks, Erin, for all your wisdom about calories.
Yes.
I'll see you guys. We hope you guys have a great day.
Yes, have a great rest of your week.
Mm-hmm.